Okay, so I'm gonna try and make a video response to eagleeye1975 and his video. Let's try this tranny argument again. Um, I haven't seen the previous video Eagle Eye was referring to, Eagle Eye 1975. But so this is the first video I saw, and I haven't seen any of your other videos. So this is my first time seeing um, any content by you. So I just thought I'll put that out there as a context. So I'm coming into this like an outsider. Um, uh, okay, now okay, so I agree with you that I guess I should say I am a transsexual woman, whatever, female. So I think I should say that. So um, I've been transitioning for 2 years now, and initially when I started transitioning, I guess I would, if I saw your video, I would have become upset and I would have thought you were saying offensive things. But recently, I've sort of gotten a change in perspective, and that's based partly on my own life experiences, living out in the world and seeing how people respond to me, and also from listening to people's other points and seeing the bigger picture. And I think so. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah, you made lots of points in your videos. I really don't know how to. I'm gonna try and just. This might not be as coherent as I would like it to be, but all right. First, let's talk about this bathroom issue thing, or this whole trans rights stuff like that, and also maybe LGBT rights as well. Now, I don't think this issue of like, I don't think this should be subject to legislation. I don't think people should pass laws saying trans people can use the bathroom they identify with or feel comfortable in. I don't think it should be legislated either positively or negatively. I don't think that's a good idea, because I don't know how you're going to enforce it. And I don't think it's really necessary. And also it's potential, like you said, like if they pass laws that say, oh, a trans woman, a person who was born male but who identifies as a female, uh, if they say a trans woman can use the women's restroom, then it's potential that can be exploited. Um, but having said that, even if you don't pass positive laws like that, someone who wants to perv can do it either way. So I don't think the law is going to stop a, a criminal from behaving criminally, or in that perverted way or harmful way. Um, but like, yeah, so I don't think this should be legislated. I just think that it shouldn't be made subject to legislation. I think people should use common sense. um, like, if you look like a woman, if I'm if I'm going out and I'm like, I look like a woman and people see me as a woman, then I would use the women's restroom, and just use discretion, common sense, be mindful of other people. I mean, yeah, just use common sense, be a decent human being. um, so yeah, this should be something that people should use their own personal discretion and common sense and be reasonable be mindful of how you can impact other people, right? So, that's a very general thing, but yeah. Um, but I do think there should be more unisex toilets because for people who, let's say, who cannot pass, right? Like it might be really awkward. Like if you look like a man in the dress, the typical thing, because there are a lot of trans people out there who actually pass quite well, so you wouldn't be able to tell that they're trans. But I think what we're actually talking about is about those people who don't pass, and you could say, oh, that person doesn't really look like a girl or whatever. So I mean, for those kinds of people, I mean, it might be uncomfortable for them. It might be they could be harassed. It might be uncomfortable for the people around them. And let's also talk about trans men. People who are born women who transition to male. When they take testosterone and all that, they really do look like males because their facial hair grows, their voice deepens, and everything. So, there's that other side as well. It's not just, but we would tend to focus on trans women because, it's that fear of, that because men are traditionally seen to be more violent and predatory. So there is this kind of fear there. But, so that's why we seem to focus on trans women. But anyway, but like I said, this thing should be not, I don't think it should be legislated. I think people should use common sense and discretion and be responsible citizens. Now, related to that, is sort of like this whole thing about LGBT rights and, let's say, trans rights. And you mentioned the whole, at the end of your video, about the whole, like, this is an attack on Western culture, Western values, traditional, stuff like that. And I think there's, like, and this is where my change has really come about recently, is that I do believe, okay, let me talk about why I have this change from being a very progressive person saying, yes, it should all be open and free, and because when I was thinking like that, I was thinking from my own individual perspective. I was thinking about my own personal rights, my own personal feelings. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be discriminated against or whatever. But now, but I wasn't really thinking about the society around me. I didn't think about like how would society, what would be the impact on society if we allow these kind of uh, the breaking down of traditional gender binary, or all these notions which have sort of helped civilization. you know I think they provide stability, and that's sort of, I feel, it's necessary to build and maintain a society, a civilization. So I was focused a lot on myself. Yeah. So recently I've sort of shifted that focus, and I'm trying to consider the society around me. Like, how will the society be changed or impacted by promoting trans or LGBT rights? Um, and will that have a negative impact on society? So thinking about that, and also based on my own personal experiences, like being around LGBT people and all that, um, and the reality, the narrative versus the reality. The gay people will say, people are born gay, and this is not a choice, and there's not we're normal, and so that's the narrative. But actually, reality, I think, is a bit more complex than that. So anyway, this is very hard to explain. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't think it's beneficial to society to encourage these kind of fringe behaviors and ideas. And I would even apply this to homosexuality as well, because I don't, I mean, these days, I mean, homosexuality is like, oh no, everyone thinks it's just normal, but I don't know if it's really like, yeah. Anyway, what the truth is, it is actually not normal. Being a homosexual is actually abnormal. You're on the fringe. You're a minority, and whether it's by choice or whether it's you're born that way or whether it's a combination, however someone comes to have that kind of sexual orientation, it's still a minor kind of orientation. And I feel like the gay lobby and even now the trans lobby, they have this very aggressive rhetoric. They're very extremely aggressive, and they try to push their agenda without really caring much about the harm that can come to society if it were to let go of these traditional values and embrace these abnormal, minority, fringe, outlying ideas and behaviors. Now, I'm not saying we should put gay people in prison or put trans people in prison. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is legally, yeah, legally, let's, and this might contradict my whole bathroom thing, but in certain areas like employment, housing, medical access to medicine, well, then that you can have a debate, but on these general things like, yeah, people shouldn't be discriminated if they can perform the job or if they're not like in housing or whatever. But then, legally, I think you shouldn't discriminate. But culturally, I think, I don't think, okay, so that's legally. Legally, on these certain spheres, people shouldn't be discriminated. I think you should give people an opportunity to live good lives. Try and find a job. If they can perform a job, let them do it. Um, right? Uh, if they can pay the rent, if they can, let them do that. All right. So, but culturally, I don't think these things should be encouraged. I'm not saying they should be discouraged. I'm not saying you should say, don't be gay, don't be gay. No, but I'm saying let's not encourage it and make it a norm. So, because I don't think that's good for society. And let me talk about trans kids. Like they were, like this whole movement about giving children the ability to transition medically, using hormone blockers and things like that. I feel like while some kids might benefit from that, I feel like if you encourage it, it's going to lead to a lot of experimentation, or it can cause people or these children to take steps that they might not need to have taken. And the fact is, if you're gay, if you're trans, if you're one of these minority groups, you're going to have a very hard time in society. Yeah, society is not going to accept you. People are going to, yeah, I mean, no matter how progressive you become, I think you're still going to face pushback, negativity, especially from personal experience. I mean, as a trans person, the amount of resistance, this really surprised me, was the amount of resistance people have to you being trans. And if they know you're trans, because not everyone knows, but if they do, the amount of there's a lot of pushback, even from people who might think they're supportive of you, who might say, "Oh, I support trans people," but on a personal level, interacting with them, they find it uncomfortable. Um, I don't know why. There might be a lot more reasons for it, but anyway, the point is, like, even when it comes to gay people, like, I don't think like it's black or white. You're either gay or you're straight, or I mean, that's pretty much evident. But anyway, so I feel like the LGBT community and even the, trans community, there's sort of like a conflict between the gay people and trans people. So that's because, yeah, I mean, trans people are talking about gender identity, and gay people are talking about sexual orientation. So it's even there. It's not a homogenous group. It's a group with internal tensions. So I guess what I would say is I don't think we should encourage it. Um, Now, having said that, if someone strongly feels that they need to transition their gender, they're going to do it. I mean, trans people aren't new. They have existed throughout whole of history, whole of human civilization. So I think there is some argument to be made that this aspect of being somewhat like having this gender thing, which is transitioning or being born one sex but identifying as a different sex or whatever. I think there might be some biological basis to it, but I really don't know. I can't say that with any certainty. Um, but if someone, like I said, if someone wants to transition, if they really want to do it, and they're prepared to accept the consequences, yeah, there are negative. If you're going to transition, there are negative consequences to that. You can't expect society to accept you. Yeah, you can't, because why should I do that? You know, why should I impose my difference on a group of people? Because difference creates, uh, it creates confusion. It can harm people. I mean, I hate saying, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're all different and all that, but I should, you should understand that there are negative consequences to being gay. Well, not these days, but in some countries, yeah, it's horrible consequences. You can be killed. But there are, in the West, let's say, there are negative consequences to being trans, gay, whatever. And I would, yeah, and I would say to trans people that, yeah, you shouldn't push this narrative. You shouldn't, force the mainstream to accept you. They don't need to accept you. As long as they don't put you in prison or whatever, yeah, you do your thing, but don't expect people to accept you or like you or whatever. I want to say a lot more here, but I don't. I'm just sort of very distracted. I just can't think of it. Yeah, I think the aggressive rhetoric by the gay lobby, trans lobby should. I think these people should be a little bit more appreciative. They should have some gratitude that they're living in a society that allows them to live generally good lives. I mean, if you go into some other countries, you could be killed if you're gay. You could be, murdered if you're trans or whatever. So I think, yeah, I think the LGBT people should have a bit of appreciation for the what rights they do have, that they can get a job, that they do have quite a lot of protections. So, yeah, there is this kind of, push towards trying to, break down traditional Western values. And that's just wrong. I mean, yeah, yeah, there is some truth to that. I will agree with you. There is some truth to that. So, oh yeah, so you talked about this whole trans people being delusional and why don't they give therapy and all that. I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't know, agree with your statement that trans people are delusional, but I think therapy is a good thing. Uh, but I guess my view would be that the therapist that a trans person goes to should have a neutral view they shouldn't be either for transition or against transition, right? Because if you go to a therapist who is trying to convert them or whatever, I don't think that's helpful to that trans person. So have a have an experienced therapist who's researched, who's learned about gender issues, and have let them have a neutral position and let them explore with the trans person whatever, you know, what they want to do and all that. Um, Therapy is good, but at the end of the day, uh, I mean, no matter how much therapy you get, some people are just, you know, they don't. Some for some people, transitioning is a good thing for them. Um, like I said, there are negative consequences to transitioning. If you are unable to successfully transition, you're going to have to live with that. You're going to have to live with the fact that people are going to laugh at you or whatever. That's just going to happen. That's just what the society, that's just the consequence, you know. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if people weren't mean, but, people, I don't think most people are really mean, but, it's only the very, there are always going to be negative types. People are going to be violent in any society. But, yeah, anyway, what else yeah, about this whole therapy thing. I don't know. Therapy might work for some people. For some people, it might be they might not feel strongly enough. They might only need to do it like on a weekend or whatever. They might want to do it in private. For other people, it might be more important for them to live it full time or whatever. It all depends on circumstances. Some people, if you're already married, have children, and you got a job, and that might there are a lot of other factors to consider just other than yourself, and that's something that person has to make they have to make that judgment for themselves, and talk to the people around them. And for other people, like they might be whatever, they might not have all of those other social pressures and commitments, and transitioning might be more easier for them. So it's a very complex, there are all of these range of factors that you know that have to be taken into account. So yeah, yeah, I don't think people yeah, the how you're saying that people were calling you a bigot or anything, like, yeah, I don't. 2 years ago, I would have also been like one of those people saying, "Yo, you're transphobic, you're bigot." But I've come to sort of become much more realistic and understand that, yeah, transitioning is it has negative consequences, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. I don't think it should be encouraged, especially for children. I'm not saying it should be discouraged. I don't think you should make laws against trans people. Like I said, legally give people protections, but culturally, I don't think it's beneficial for society as a whole if these kinds of outlier, abnormal kind of things. I know those words sound very uh, bloated, but they shouldn't be encouraged. But at the end of the day, if someone is going to do it, they're going to do it, and if they're going to do it, you might as well help them do it. So I think there should be medical care for trans people. Um, you know, because a lot of people do it on the black market. So that's not good. If someone wants to transition and there's no medical care, because a lot of doctors don't, they're as biased against trans people as the wider community. So there should be more understanding. I think it's good to have these conversations. I think it benefits everybody. Um, so yeah, but like I said, people shouldn't be calling. I don't think your points were necessary. Yeah, I don't think they were bigoted or whatever. You were expressing your point, and I think you have a right to express your point. I would just say that I think if I don't think it's a mental illness or disorder. Because I would also agree with you about the whole psychiatry. It's not really an exact science. So anyway, there are lots of issues to talk about here. It's hard to just sort of talk about it in one video, but Yeah, I think your opinions, like you have a right to express your opinions, and this is where I say the trans agenda or the LGBT agenda, or whatever these anti-Western values, even anti-white agendas, you know, I think they might have some kind of a, yeah, aggressive rhetoric, and I don't think they should be silencing people, you know. So, so yeah, so I'm talking from the point of someone who used to think like that, but now has become, his views have changed based on experience, and also thinking about thinking about the greater good. Because before I was just thinking about me and my own suffering, whereas now I'm thinking more about the greater good because I think that's important. So anyway, so I'll just make a video. Yeah, So this is my perspective. Uh, I thought I'd make a video because I think it's important for trans people to say these things because I know, having watched a lot of trans people speak and done a lot of, you know, have a lot of knowledge, let's say. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I have, for the past 2 years, I've been sort of engrossed in this. I think it's important for people to express contrary opinions, and you know, and because the truth is, transitioning is difficult, and there are going to be negative consequences. And if you're going to do it, you're going to have to understand that. You're going to have to appreciate that. Okay, so anyway, so all right.